Well, hello everyone, it is Caitlin, and today we are making bags. Lots and lots of bags. Technically we're making the same bag 3 times and then another bag. So these are all shoe bags, and I have a lovely glove case over here. So yeah, come join me on this venture. Alright, so shoe bags are found on page 209 and 210. So I'm going to do another shoe bag, which is on page 210, it's the top one, and it's plate 24 and figure 15, which is this right here. So it's basically just a little case. You can see each shoe has its own spot. There's a little triangular bit that folds over, and there's a button to hook it together. And so that's what I'm going to use for my shoe cases. And it's very short. It just says, this is a better shape for large shoes or ladies' boots as they lie flatter when packed in separate pockets. The bag is therefore back stitched up the middle and a button put on for the upper flap to button upon. Now that tells me almost nothing. It doesn't tell me dimensions. It doesn't tell me what fabrics to use. So what I did, I went one step back to shoe, shoe or brush and comb bag. And it says there's a cat, these are very convenient in traveling as they save much paper and take up little room. They are made of different materials according to the shoe to be put in. If for walking shoes, a coarse brown canvas called Earn is the most suitable. For house shoes, calico or holland, which is like polished cotton, and for satin slippers, old silk. The bags are made to draw up at one end. Of course, we're going to stop there because that has nothing. The rest of it is just how to make up that particular shoe bag, and we're not doing that shoe bag. We're doing the other one. So I'm thinking holland would be good. So here are my shoes that I have. So I have 3 pairs of shoes that I need shoe bags for. I have the Elizas from American Duchess. These are my black ones. Very well worn and loved, as you can tell. And then I also have them in brown. There was a sale. I couldn't say no to both pairs. And then I also have my yet to be completed Berlin woolwork slippers for my 1830s and 40s ones. But I have my 1850s and 60s pairs that we already made. So this is going to help me decide exactly how large to make the shoe bags. So we're going to make what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to color coordinate, put these here. I'm trying to color coordinate the color of the shoe with the color of the bag. That way, if I, for whatever reason, if I need to bring both of these pairs of shoes, I can then tell without having to open them up to see which pair of shoes I have. So what I have here is some gray polished cotton for the black ones, some tan polished cotton for the brown ones, and some colored polished cotton for the slippers. So there are no dimensions given, which would be quite fun. Let's start with the black ones. Oh, the other thing I also have is lots of silk ribbon, because I'm looking at the picture and it's definitely, the edges are definitely bound, and so I have it in black because I wasn't processing this that I needed silk ribbon, but I have lots and lots and lots of black silk ribbon, so I figured it would be a good time to use it up, and we'll just use the same ribbon on all of them, so it'll work. Yeah, I really don't need the directions anymore because we've already figured out how what fabric they're made out of, and all I need to know is that it's back stitched up the middle and a button put on the upper flap, for the upper flap. So a button put on for the upper flap. So I don't need anything else from there. So we can primarily work from the engraving. And I'll get y'all a little bit of a close-up there. Okay. So it's this one right here. And so you can see it's basically a square is what it looks like. But I'm sure it's going to depend on the size of our shoe. And that's probably why no dimensions were given. I think it would be most useful if I put my shoes in here to kind of see how much I need. Okay. to be able to get this as a pocket, I'm going to need, I definitely want something more like that perhaps. If the two size pockets differ at all, I'll just take the larger measurement. We're going to need to try it out first before we know what's actually going to work. And this should be easy because my shoes are all the same size, and so once I figure out what works, I shouldn't have any more problems. So this should, in theory, put them together and they'll stay quite nicely, and they won't get my bags dirty, which is kind of the whole point of doing all this. So I need 35 inches long, and then I said I needed it 17 inches wide. So I think we're going to go ahead and make up the brown one, and then just to make sure they work, and then we can cut to the other two. So let me go ahead and iron this, and we can start stitching the ribbon on. Alright, quick update. So I went ahead and ironed that all out. But then I was going to iron out these silk ribbons, and I realized that what looked like what looked like 3/4 inch silk ribbon on the spool when I was just looking at it is actually like 1/4 inch wide, and there's no way it's just going to fold over and make an edge. So I'm going to have to order more silk ribbon for this project, which is okay, because then I can just order a brown, a black, and pink to go with everything. So I think we're just going to do today is go ahead and cut the rest of the bags, or the other two bags, I suppose. And then when the silk ribbon comes in, we can work on the rest of it. I'll keep these to the side, and next week, whenever the silk ribbon comes in, we'll start back up again. I have the gray polished cotton here. I think I'm going to go ahead and make that into the V. That looks pretty good. And that'll just be the flap that folds over. Something more like that. That'll work. So what I think I'm going to do is take this and bind it all over. Alright, there's one prepped. I think that'll work really well. I do need to mark halfway on here to do the back stitch. I suppose I can go ahead and do now. Alright, so that one's prepped. I think I'm going to go ahead and prep the other two as well. It might just be easier to do it all at once, and we can get all of our stitching done. And I think I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. I'm just going to do a running stitch around. I'm not going to do that on camera because I have a Zoom meeting starting in a few minutes of a whole bunch of us who do 1830s living history in Texas are getting together a couple times a week and just to chat, so we don't have events to go to. And I think this will be my project for the day while I'm sitting there talking to people. So yes, I will see you when the Zoom meeting's over. Alright, so the buttonholes look horrible, but they're done. So, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and stuff these. Of course, I don't have the embroidered slippers done for the 1830s or 40s, and so I can't stuff this one on yet. So I'm just going to fold it for now. Probably could have made it a little narrower, but I'd rather it be slightly too big than too small. I can fold it up nicely and it will fit in whatever bag I'm carrying. And it'll keep mud and dirt off the rest of the stuff that's in the carpet bag. So that is the point of this project. Definitely could have made them a bit narrower, but it works. So yeah, they fold up fairly nicely and it keeps everything clean. Polished cotton's easy to clean. They're not gonna fall out. So that's helpful. It's pretty secure. I think that project was a success. The next bag we're going to make is a glove case, because I have lots of lovely kid gloves that need a case. That way they don't get lost. I have a habit of always having one of a pair of gloves and never two that match. So hopefully this will help that situation. But the glove case on my copy of the Lady Workwoman's Guide can be found on page 209. And it says, glove case. Gloves become easily soiled if not covered carefully. And as white gloves, colored and black, should be kept as separate cases, it is better to make the bags for the express purpose of keeping them nicely. It is also advantageous to buy several pairs at once, as they are cheaper when sold by the dozen or half dozen. For ladies' gloves, take a strip of the material, about 4 nails wide and 5 nails and a quarter long, and pipe or bind it all around with colored glazed calico or ribbon. Cut another strip 1 nail and 3/4 wide and 9 nails long. This is also piped and bound. The ends may be finished according to fancy, either left square, rounded off, or turned down to form a triangle. Crease both strips in half their length and lay the middle of the first strip crosswise upon the middle of the other, so that the longest piece lies underneath. After pinning them very evenly together, stitch them firmly with small stitches in the piping so as not to be seen. Strings or a button and buttonhole are fixed to the ends of the longest strip. White gloves may be put in between the 2 strips and the colored ones above. When they are laid in, fold the side of the smallest piece over the first, then the long one, and button it together. On the outside, mark the name and the color of the gloves. Gentlemen's gloves are vary only in being larger. So, here's the plate that we're talking about up here, which is plate 4, or it's plate 24, figure 4. And so, let's go ahead and grab some glazed calico. So I have plenty of blue left over. I might as well go ahead and use it. And then I have a little bit of the pink left over, and we might go ahead and use this for the piping. Kind of do a contrast piping here. So to start off with, we need a piece that is 4 nails wide, which ends up being about 9 inches by just under 12 inches. It'll be just over 11 3/4. It's 11.8. So yeah, we'll do a little bit over 11 3/4. And the next one needs to be about 20 1/4 long and just under 4 inches. And I might make it 5 inches because I want the gloves to sit in here, and my gloves are just about 4 inches wide themselves. I might try 4.5. So let's test this. It's going to be like this. You put one pair of gloves here and you fold that over. That works. And your last color here, and then you would fold that over and do that. Put a button and buttonhole there. Yeah, so that works out pretty well. So there's just enough for a buttonhole here and a button, just enough gap there. But I think it might be helpful if I made this just a tiny bit longer. So it is 11.5 now. Let's try 13. So that actually works out really well. So I think for the size gloves that I have, that's going to work a lot better. I shall, I guess, cut some bias for some piping. Alright, I haven't even done the piping yet, and I've already changed my mind about the piping. I think instead I'm going to just do the binding that it says we could do instead, which sounds a whole lot more fun. So the directions say that we can leave this square, we can round it like the engraving shows, or we can cut it in a triangle. I think I'm going to go with triangle. They're not like really deep. They're not like really deep. I think something more like that. Let's test it to make sure. And it folds over pretty nicely. Not entirely sure because there's a gap here. I might not put my white gloves up front. And I do have a concern about them just falling out the bottom. I suppose for these it won't matter because they'll be nicely encased this way. This one I think should probably be fine. I guess it'll just be these top ones sliding out, possibly. But I think it'll be okay. If I kind of, make the button to where it's a little tighter, I think we'll be fine. Alright, so the pieces got sewed together, ironed, and pinned them on. I pinned them on, so we can go ahead and start stitching them, which is probably going to do a running stitch. Not going to put too much effort into that, it's going to be hidden anyway. The bias got ironed over, and now we're ready to stitch it across the other side to kind of hide all those seams. Alrighty, so we are nearly done. I think I'm going to put this wrong side up, and that way when it folds over, there will be the nice side. I'm going to mark this in half. I think I'm going to do the same thing, just wrong sides up. Going to match that center. And I'm not sure if I should stitch up here as well. I kind of feel like if I don't stitch here, this is kind of like a pocket I could use for something else. It doesn't say in the directions, it just said to stitch it in the ditch. And technically there is no ditch on this side. So I think we're going to stick with doing it right here and here. I'll have a section underneath if I need it, but then we'll have the pockets. Okay, let's go with that. I think for this part I'm going to do a back stitch just to make it more secure. Alrighty, So I guess we're at the last step where we get to put in the buttons and buttonholes. I suppose button and buttonhole, since there's only going to be one. I picked a basic white China button because that's what I had on hand. I guess it really doesn't matter what side I put the button or the buttonhole on, since it's basically reversible either way. Alrighty, so we have a completed glove case with button, buttonhole. So then we go ahead and start putting this together. I have 3 kind of piles of gloves here. I happened to win a collection of like a dozen gloves that were all from the same lady that happened to fit me. And so I have like a lot of vintage leather gloves, which is awesome. But they did need somewhere to store them. So I have 2 pairs of plain white gloves. And these are all kid leather. I have 2 pairs of embroidered leather gloves. I think I'm going to stick these in the back pocket that I discovered that we could have, because I really don't use my white gloves a whole lot, mostly for fear of getting them dirty, unless I'm at an evening event, which I don't attend a whole lot of those. So we're going to stick that in there. I think next we're going to put our black gloves, and I have 2 pairs of those. I have plain and embroidered. And just fold that over just like that. And 2 pairs of colored gloves. I have like this buff pinkish color and the pistachio color. I can fold over like that. And then we can just stuffed a little tight, I suppose. I bet I could just put like a button and buttonhole right here, and that would definitely hold all the gloves in if I wanted. Let's see what it looks like when it's all put together. We may not need to. Yeah, they're holding even when I'm shaking it, so I think we're going to be good the way it is. But that is super cute. And it holds, what was that? That was 8 pairs of gloves. That's actually not bad. So, and they made it to a small little case. It's not super bulky. So I'm very happy with that. So I think we're going to go ahead and grab the shoe bags and talk about, I guess, all the bags together. Alright, so here are all of our bags. All 3 shoe bags with these 2 shoes inside them. I still haven't made the embroidered slippers, so that one's empty. And a glove case way over there. So I think it was a very productive project, and I think these are very useful little articles. I think some of the things in the Workwoman's Guide kind of get overlooked because everyone's so focused on the costumes that we kind of forget about other things that, even though we don't technically live in the 1830s and and not all of them are useful to us all the time, some of them can be quite useful even for costumers, so, and living historians. So yeah, I think the shoe bags are really going to help. In fact, the ones in here are actually really dirty right now, so glad I have a bag for them now. They don't have to mess up with, they don't get anything else dirty. And that'll really help going to events. And of course, the little glove case, I think that turned out super cute. So hopefully that'll keep my gloves together and I won't ever have to worry about only managing to find 1 glove for each pair. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next video.